All right, so we have a special guest today on Fire Breathing Rob. For the people that have been listening and for the newcomers, I thank you so much for listening. We've been really trying to get amazing people on, and thankfully they've been coming on the program. So I appreciate the guests for coming on, and also, most importantly, the people for listening and subscribe. And thanks so much. We have another great person on, and this is Anthony Diaz. He is coming to us from Newark, New Jersey, and he's with the Newark Water Coalition. We're going to kick that around. I know a lot of people have heard about Flint, but it's not just Flint. It's all around the country where these water issues, these lead issues are really going on. They're not publicized by the mainstream media, but we're going to publicize it here because we are a progressive outlet. We need to get this out right now. So, Anthony, first of all, thanks so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to come on the program. Greatly appreciate the time today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's important to get these issues out there. And like you said, a lot of people sweep these things under the rug.
Let's kick this around, Anthony, in the interview. So can you tell the viewers a little bit about yourself and also what made you want to start the New York Water Coalition?
So I've been like a social justice advocate for most of my life. In high school, you know, I was a rabble-rouser, troublemaker. We started our own underground newsletter. We started a student union in high school. In college, I wrote for the college paper, and I tried to start a fraternity and just do a lot of social justice work. And then in my adult life, I volunteered for a few groups. Homes for All Newark, Black Lives Matter Newark, A Movement of the People was the slate that I ran on for city council. I ran for office twice. I ran for city council in Newark in 2018. And this past year, or in July, I ran for Essex County Freeholder. So I've always been politically active and doing things. But my co-founder, Saber B, she, you know, when this water issue came up, she's like, hey, Anthony, somebody has to do something about this. And I'm like, yeah, somebody has to do something about this. And she's like, no, somebody has to do something about this. And I'm like, all right, fine, I'll call a meeting and see what happens. And I always tell this story, but it's an amazing story. Like, we call this meeting, I'm expecting 5 to 10 people to show up. We get 30 people to show up. And I'm like, wow, you know, you're expecting low numbers. If you've done activist work at all, you're just like, you know, you're not going to get a lot of bodies out. We call another meeting and another 30 bodies show up. And so we knew we were onto something. And that's kind of what set the Newark Water Coalition off. You know, I've never been really an environmental justice, climate change kind of person. I've always been like police brutality, affordable housing, you know, those kinds of issues. But in doing the research in this, you learn so much. You learn so much about the environment. You learn so much about environmental racism. You learn so much about the community. And you're just like, damn, like, these issues are like the predominant issues of our life, right? There is no planet B. You don't have you can't just drink soda for the rest of your life. Like, you need water. Like, water, when people say water is life, they kind of just throw that away as like a statement, but it's so true. Without water, like even COVID, right? The first thing they tell you is wash your hands, wash your hands. So if you don't even have water to wash your hands, what are you doing, right? What can you do? So it's like all of these things came together to the perfect storm. And as an activist, you know, I was just able to organize the community around me and really make a lot of headway in this field.
So what do you guys do as far as the Newark Water Coalition?
We actually do a lot of things. So if we have filters, we give them out, you know, usually we give them out on a one-on-one basis. We've given out, I would say like over probably 800 filters.
Wow.
We've given out over 6,000 gallons of water. So if we get cases, we give them out. If we get gallons of water, we give them out. We've given out masks, we've given out hand sanitizers. I do a lot of presentations and panels and interviews like this to kind of just like to fundraise, to get people knowledgeable, to get people on board. Our last project, we partnered with a company called 501c3, and they've been in Flint, and they brought a water station over to Newark. And so now what we do is use reusable jugs. We fill them up. We can connect it all to the pipes at the church. fill it up. It filters out everything out of the water. It's sometimes cleaner than actual bottled water. And that's what we've been giving out so that it's more sustainable, because we recognize like we were just so much plastic, right? We didn't want to give out that much plastic. So yeah, I mean, and also legislation, right? We've been working with, you know, a couple of state offices to see if we can get some legislation passed around lead, and do stuff like that. And, you know, we also do protests. We're out in the streets. We do a lot of sponsors. We do a lot of resource connections and things like that. So we do it all here at the Newark Water Coalition, and we're a volunteer group. None of us get paid. I get like a small stipend, but you know, $250 a month. And then, yeah, but I mean, it's something, right? It's better than nothing. And everybody else is a volunteer, and it's really, really dope to see like how people come together around this issue, and like how big our platform has grown over the last 2 years is nothing short of amazing.
Well, let's kick this around as far, and this is Anthony Diaz here on Fire Breathing Rob. He's with the Newark Water Coalition. Anthony, let's talk about this. How many people do you figure you've helped throughout, you know, this being going on? It's been going on, and you can correct me if I'm wrong. I've heard that this has been going on since Booker was the mayor in 2008. Is that true?
I would say if you're looking, see, the thing is Newark has always had lead issues. It's going back as far as Sharp James. But I really look at, you can say Booker's office, but I look at 2016 as the starting point. And the reason why I say 2016 is because that's when all 30 Newark public schools were found tested positive for lead or exceeded lead levels. So that was kind of like the smoking gun that really got everybody involved. But since 2016, we haven't been under the federal limit until this past month, or I thought maybe July. But even then, it's like the federal limit is 15 parts per billion, and we're at 14 parts per billion. So we're not like, you know, it's not like we're amazing out here. It's just like we finally hit that number that the feds say it's okay.
Right. Well, it seems like a domino effect of corruption in Newark. You know, you talked about James Booker, and now we go on to Baraka, and we'll get into that in a second. I want to go into this though. Where do you get all this funding? You talk about all this water that you've given out, mass, hand sanitizer, especially throughout this time. We know that those things can get extremely expensive, especially to give them out to thousands upon thousands of people. So where are you getting that funding? I know you spoke about fundraising, but is that it?
Yeah, it's
Wow.
literally GoFundMe. People are amazed. People are impressed by that. They're like, "What do you mean?" And I'm like, "Listen, people, it's like mom and pops donating $5, $10. Last year, we got a $5,000 donation from the Muslim community, the North Jersey Muslim community. So that was dope. We were able to buy a lot of filters. We got a fiscal sponsorship this past year, which means it's like that weird like nonprofit status, but not really. So we just got a grant from the Victoria Foundation. We haven't gotten that money yet, but I mean, listen, like these are things that like I never thought of, right? We never thought that we would get these kinds of resources. And then people just do in-kind donations. And because of our reputation, it allowed us to partner with so many different organizations. So like the mask and the hand sanitizer came from, I think it's called Masks for Life. We got like, I want to say 10,000 masks from them, maybe 100 bottles of hand sanitizer. Always, the sanitary pad company for women, they gave us 15,000 tampons to give out to women in Newark. So it's like building these different connections and having these different relationships and being consistent at the work has allowed people to be like, hey, I see what you're doing. I want to volunteer. I want to give you guys money, or I want to do a fundraiser. You know, we get a lot of people who like, there's just recently this past year, someone, It was called Run for Social Justice, and they raised over $1,200. We had this soup fundraiser. It raised like almost $3,000. So there's these different communities that like to throw events for us and like, you know, pour back into us. And we're just like, wow, this is amazing. And we try to give out as many of those resources as possible and make our organization self-sustainable.
That's great to hear because, you know, in this time of coronavirus, a lot of people don't have that cash to give away. And it's nice that you guys are still kicking butt, you know, throughout this time. So that's great to hear. Right. So you feel like it's some of the similar problems that happened in Flint. I know Flint switched the water over, so it's different. But in that way that with Flint, a lot of these people that were getting the water tested, and you can correct me if I'm wrong if it's not happening in Newark, but a lot of these environmental organizations, they would come over and they'd run the water for a while, then test it, you know what and they would do all these things to try to make sure that that lead count was as down as they could get. Is that what happening? Is that what's happening rather in Newark, where a lot of these organizations are trying to fudge the numbers as far as state, and even if it's the EPA as far as a federal organization?
I want to say I believe so. You know, I don't have proof of this, obviously. I don't, you know, I'm not entirely sure if this is going on. But to me, it just, doing this work, right? We've seen a history of the Newark administration not showing up, right? They haven't educated the populace to the extent they needed to. They haven't given out filters to the extent they needed to, and they haven't given out water to the extent they needed to. So if, you know, if they're not doing these programs and there's a disconnection between what's on paper and the reality, so when they give me numbers, I don't, you know, I'm less likely to believe in those numbers. I'm less likely to say, okay, they're telling us the truth, or this is the truth, because it's like historically they haven't ever told the truth. So that's what causes this distrust for me.
So we'll keep moving into this. Now, you have met thousands of people through doing this work, and we hear in these different places around the country where they have had water and issues that a lot of people are suffering from these health issues, especially kids, young children, where their minds are still developing. They, you know, are drinking this lead, and, you know, some of them don't even know about it, or they have no choice. With that said, have you talked to anybody or saw anybody that has some serious health issues? I'm sure you have.
Um, I've met a few people that have had lead poisoning over the years. One woman sticks out to me. She definitely had lead issues in her home in Newark. Her child has lead poisoning and has developmental issues as a result. And it's sad because it's like, you know, these issues are not just like so black and white. It's not just like, okay, we get the lead count to 0 in Newark tomorrow and then everything is fine. It's not. These, you know, these problems exist over time. These children are poisoned over time. These adults are poisoned over time. So it's like, you know, one of those things is, even if you're not manifesting issues today, you might tomorrow. You might years from now. And that's the thing, you know, we try to think about like how to fight this problem holistically, because we know it's not just changing the lead service lines. We know it's putting programs in place, getting the testing in place, making sure that these people have resources so that if there is an issue, they can tap into, rather than them being left out in the dark.
Now, I was told that with the governor now is stepping in, and they're trying to change these service lines, but it's not, you know, moving as fast as obviously you want it to. Any update on that? How is that going? Is it moving somewhat fast at all, or what's going on with that?
It's moving pretty fast. I think the last count is at 15,000 of the 18,000 lead service lines.
Wow.
And so one of the things is, we're like, again, if historically they haven't done the right thing, like you kind of like, oh, wow, you did 15,000 lead service lines in under, you know, 2 years. Okay, you had the money to do it, but then like, we're like, are you doing it well? Are the people's homes tested? They just initiated a program where if you got your lead service lines change that you can test your water. And that was something that we were fighting for in the beginning, because these people need to know. And so, again, I look at it with a little bit of cynicism and kind of like apprehension, but this is what they, they have made strides in this area, but the work, this is the thing I have to stress all the time. The work is not finished just because you change these lead service lines.
This is Anthony Diaz from the Newark Water Coalition. Anthony, let's talk about the mayor right now. So Ras Barak, I've heard a lot of bad things about him as far as not doing anything, that he wasn't even meeting with a lot of people such as yourself throughout this time. Can you talk about this? What is this? Why is this man still in power when he seems extremely corrupt? How is he getting reelected?
That is a complicated and loaded question. I will say this about him is that he has a reputation, right? He is the son of the great Amiri Baraka, revolutionary, radical. He has celebrity friends, and, he has done some great things for the city of Newark, but he's done some terrible things for the city of Newark. And the thing that I often criticize him the most on is like, his priorities are wrong, right? Say what you will about me, about my personality, but I am community first. I believe in community first. I believe these resources need to be given out to the community. I believe Newark can be a city that is representative of a lot of great things, and we're not. And so I believe that because of the political power that he has, people are kind of complacent, right? They're not suffering terribly. They're suffering, but they're not suffering terribly. So they're like, okay, well, we're going to take the lesser of two evils, right? That's always what comes up in the national election, the lesser of two evils.
Yeah.
For me, it's as a socialist, as a radical, I'm always like, no, the world could be different. The world could be better. He is doing, this, but we could be doing so much more. We could be really changing this society. We can really be changing this community, pour money back into these streets. And, we're a small voice, right? It's literally this David versus Goliath situation where it's like, we have fought and made a lot of inroads, a lot of inroads and major accomplishments. But I am not satisfied until we win, until the community is winning. And so, you have a lot of loyalists, and he puts money into people's pockets, right? We can't do that as a grassroots organization. We can't pay off people. We can't pay off our volunteers, in the significant ways that we can. I can get them a slice of pizza. I can put, a mask on their face. But, it's very different when someone's paying you to do and act a certain way. It's very different when, that if you side against the administration, that there are some political ramifications, and some people don't want to face that. And I understand that. And, that's why, thankfully, I do what I do so that these silent sufferers can have a voice.
But with that said, are we saying that the Baraka administration is doing more gentrification in Newark as far as putting money in developers' pockets? Is that what you're saying?
I would say that it's not just the gentrification. That's just like one aspect of it. But I mean, literally like nepotism, getting people jobs that aren't qualified for the position. It is the gentrification. It is the developers. It is this neoliberal policy of like bringing these things in. It is advocating for charter schools. It's a combination of a lot of different things. So the money is not just like, the physical developer aspect. It's just all these intangible aspects that goes into being a powerful mayor. And, it's like who gets city contracts and who gets hired and what development gets developed where, or, what building goes up where, what businesses come in and all these other things. So it's a lot, right? There's a lot that goes into it. It's not just one thing or the other.
Do you feel like that's a reason why Newark, it's taken so long to get a lot of these issues fixed, because it is a minority city, though?
Oh, definitely. I mean, environmental racism definitely plays a role here. It's a black and brown community. It's the kind of thing that can get swept under the rug. You know, it's not happening in our suburban areas. It's not happening in the affluent communities. So it's like, why is it happening here? Oh, because your priorities are jacked up, because you don't prioritize people. You prioritize these developers. You prioritize literally anything else, and you're like, this is messed up, this is wrong, this is a problem, like we need to combat this, we need to fight this.
Anthony, how is COVID hitting you and your community in general?
So obviously, you know, the beginning of the crisis, everything was on lockdown. It was like really strange to be around, very quiet out. There's a lot of tension in the air. As you've seen things open back up, you don't really have that as much, and so it's been interesting to kind of see that evolution. Um, I would say that it's it's still a real thing, and where some people have taken it negatively, I try to be hopeful, and it's like, yeah, this world is scary and fucked up and it's changed and people are wearing masks and you have to stand in line at the grocery stores, or you did before. But the opposite is true, right? We've never been alive in a world or a time that existed like this. So
Right.
anything is possible, right? Anything you want to dream of can be a reality. So, you know, you often hear this concept of a new normal, a new normal. What's the new normal going to look like? Well, let the people decide what the new normal is. You know, the people who are in power, it made this problem happen, right? They haven't come up with solutions. You know, one stimulus in 6 months is nothing, right? So why are we still listening to them? Why are we still accepting the situation as it is when we can demand more? And that's kind of what I want to reframe people's thinking. It's like, it's not all this negative stuff. Take this opportunity as an opportunity to make real changes and demand more of not only politicians, but of each other, right? Hold each other accountable and say, like, enough is enough. We're not going to handle that. We're not going to, you know, allow this situation to keep evolving as it has.
So what's happening to these people that are working in restaurants and hotels? They're not getting this money, such as you said, Anthony. And not only that, they have to worry about lead in the water. They're home all the time now, whether they're working from home or not. Their kids are at home, so they can't drink the water out of the faucet. How do they take showers? I mean, this stuff boggles my mind. And you stated at the beginning how water is life, how we depend on water in so many ways that we don't think about until these issues happen. So how are people, going through this right now in Newark?
So a lot of people, I would say, you know, you don't hear about their issues until it becomes too much, right? You don't hear about these problems, and a lot of people suffer in silence. And so what we try to do is constantly communicate. Hey, do you need anything? What's going on? How can we help you? How can we be in your community? How can we provide assistance? And so sometimes people speak out, and sometimes we're able to help a lot of people. And then sometimes you just, you know, they just really just suffer, and it's
Yeah.
sad and it sucks, and it's like, come on, you didn't have to do this. This is why we exist. This is why we're a community. This is why there's people out here. So I think it's a thing that I've seen in a lot of black and brown communities, where it's like, nah, I can handle this alone. It's like this individualism that, like, we can overcome, and it's like, you don't have to, though. You don't have to do this. We can overcome this. We can survive this. We can heal as a community. And so it's trying to, like, break that narrative and break that thought process of that individualistic mentality to be a more communal mentality. And so shifting that is literally showing up and being consistent, showing up and providing the resources that you say you're going to provide, and empowering people to help one another.
Right, not me, us. It reminds me of the Bernie Sanders campaign, who I was a supporter of. Anyway, when you brought that up, it just reminded me of that. But Anthony, before we go, can you tell the people where they can find more about the Newark Water Commission, and also donate or help out in any way they can?
Yes, so if you go to our website, www.newarkwatercoalition.com, you'll find our GoFundMe. You can email us. You can email us at newarkwatercoalition@gmail.com. We're also on Instagram, Clean Water, the number 4 Newark. We're on Twitter, Clean Water, the number 4 NWK. And we're on Facebook as well, Newark Water Coalition. So we're active all over social media. Please reach out to us and please partner with us. Just share our information, share this interview, support your independent journalists.
Thank you so much, Anthony, and I appreciate your time. Anthony Diaz, Newark Water Coalition, thanks again.